looks like as we start to go quicker. There were a couple other videos shared from Freestyle 2 class from Lisa that specifically at a much slower pace are showing like what the would say exact technique should look like. Again, I'm sharing it from our workshop class just so that we can see like I said, the stroke in motion when it swam a little bit faster. I do apologize if you hear some other noises. There is some construction going right next to me, but nonetheless, why don't we kind of start with the videos here. So first video I'm going to share is on the right, or we're going to talk about this video on the right. And this is us kind of swimming the stroke with an emphasis on distance per stroke, while also trying to limit how many strokes per lap we take. So you're going to see at the end here, she starts to really slow down because, like I said, we were kind of limiting our stroke count, which was actually a little bit tricky for Macy to do because she's kind of very used to just go, 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 go. So for her to suddenly, you know, start to think about stroke counts and really limit ourselves was actually a lot trickier than kind of what it seemed like to be. So the big thing, as we know, is that our time will equal our cycle count multiplied by our cycle rate. Generally speaking, most swimmers, and I'm going to say definitely Macy included, cycle between 1.0 to 1.2 seconds. So I'm going to write 1 to keep the math simple, but I also know that when we're taking 20, 25 strokes a lap, we have to move our arms fast. So right now we have 1 over here. We can't really move our arms much faster. Like I said, world class 1.0 to 1.2 seconds. So if we're already at 1, that number is locked into place. We cannot do much to that number. The only number we really can change is our cycle count at the cycle rate we're currently doing. Meaning if we currently are cycling at every second and we take 1 less stroke per lap, that's going to be half a stroke or half a second faster per lap we're going to be going, or 2 strokes would equal the 1 cycle. So 2 strokes less per lap will equal going 1 second faster per lap. So we really want to try to lower this number while keeping our cycle rate the same. So to do that, this is where the recovery position is going to come into place. Basically, you'll notice here from the difference between the freestyle baseline video is definitely the full extension we have in our arm. And in fact, I will actually use a green color because that is a nice full extended recovery position. You'll see really on both arms that same thing, right? We're really kind of finishing the pull and having nice extension. Now, on top of that extension, visually, structurally, this is in place, meaning that you can see the elbows extended. So from a structural standpoint, we're going to check off the recovery position because she's doing well there. Now the other thing she's doing here, and especially when we talk about getting distance per stroke, is, like I said, really accelerating this last motion here of the stroke and pushing off of water, not necessarily pulling water. And you're going to see how the arm starts to really aggressively come out of the water here. And if we kind of watch it from the beginning of a pull, and I know she's taking a breathing stroke, so it's a little trickier to see, but you can kind of get the idea how the arm will accelerate pushing off the pressure fields, and she's going to do that really kind of more or less consistently. And this is going to be something that we can get better at as we get stronger and more explosive, is getting more of the acceleration to the stroke. But the big thing that I like to see in this video is the change between pulling and pushing, as I kind of shared in the other video. In the other video, we saw she was putting a lot of force in the front of the stroke, and she was really, like I said, pulling and not really finishing her stroke very much. Whereas here you can see, like I said, there's a lot more emphasis on this back phase of the stroke right over here, giving her more propulsion pushing. So we're going to let the video play in normal speed, and we're going to just be able to watch again. We're just focused on the right here. Like I said, the stroke as we're being swam, you can see the length overall. Very good job with that. Couple of things just to kind of be careful of. Remember, from core of the stroke, we want our arm to enter in the sleeve. You can see that when she starts to focus, on finishing her pull much longer back here, she's actually keeping her arm straight almost all the way as we go into entering the water. So we really want to avoid that down the road. We want to make sure that we extend into this position and right now start to bend the elbow so the fingertips kind of face forward, and then, like I said, enter into that sleeve. So the big thing, like I said, just to be careful of is that now as we're extending and finishing our pull, make sure to still bend the elbow and enter into the sleeve, as opposed to doing a windmill stroke, kind of like we're doing over here, where the arm kind of stays straight. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind on, keep an eye on it. But overall, like I said, very good job with the length of the stroke. If she can cement this type of stroke into a race, assuming we don't necessarily, like I said, get injured or anything, she would would be a much faster swimmer based on the fact of, like I said, she's getting more distance per stroke, and we got to keep that cycle rate the same. Now I want to share a video from, again, same session, but different lap here when we have our bungee to us. So the bungee, like I said, or like we know, was tied to the block over here, and as we start to swim down the pool, it gets much tighter, much tougher to actually move, making it harder for the swimmer. So we're going to kind of let the video run in normal speed right off the bat. Same thing you'll see with the entry into the water. Like I said, be careful of that, but we're really looking to see the extension into the poles. So here's a good video just to see, like I said, that as we go through a lap and as we start to speed up, you can see actually how hard it became to do the recovery position specifically. So it definitely became tricky to do, and I wanted to share this video in specifically because we did have a hard time actually doing the recovery as we really started to speed up, when the focus was on total speed, and specifically that follow through at the stroke, right? You can see that, yeah, we're kind of extending the arm. We did a much better job when we weren't really focused on too much speed as a whole. To be fair, you guys haven't had any time to cement in between the sessions. Generally, you know, there'll be about 3 to 4 weeks from when someone learns the recovery for the first time to the time we actually do a workshop. So we really were more so just testing the skills and testing what we were capable of. But like I said, I wanted to actually share the video where we didn't really do the greatest job, because this is the exact thing that's going to happen in practice. This exact thing of kind of the old habits wants to come in of just, oh, I got to kind of move my arms quick in the front. And like I said, there was sometimes some extension, some strokes she certainly did better than others, but kind of as a whole, like I said, we're going to see, for example, on a stroke right here, that she's really kind of got into the habit of, like I said, just kind of getting her arm right back in front of her so she can kind of pull and fight the water a little bit more, as opposed to really pushing off, which she does a little better job on this next stroke. So like I said, really as a whole, we need to understand how we're going to get faster, and we really need to understand that we need more distance per stroke. We can't just cycle, and that's kind of where we're at right now with her swimming. Is she's historically been able to cycle. You know, she's grown naturally, so there's a lot of natural strength, but now that she's older and she's a much more competitive swimmer, that's not really going to work for her anymore. So again, back to the equation: time equals cycle count times multiplied by cycle rate. We really have to make sure we have our focus on our cycle count as we're swimming. In practice, if we're generally taking, let's say, 25 strokes as we're really tired, having a focus of maybe trying to do 22 or 20, right? Obviously keep the number as small as we can, but still want to make the intervals. But that's how we start to work ourselves down to where we need to go. We're not going to go from 25 to 15 overnight. So like I said, I wanted to share the video where we did weaker, because I really want Macy to understand that is what we have to do. We have to get more distance per stroke. We need to work on our recovery position like we're doing over here. We cannot necessarily, as it gets tired, start to resort to what we have done, which was just kind of, you know, pulling the water and not really having much follow through with the stroke. So like I said, we definitely want to be the swimmer on the right, not so much the swimmer on the left. There was, of course, actually good laps we did with the bungee when we actually held on to very good technique throughout the lap. But again, I did want to share this one just because, like I said, this will happen in practice, and this really is kind of the next step in the process, right? We got to learn information, and we'll kind of have that step, and then we have to fix information, and then we have to cement, and then we can race the technique. But you can't just jump from fix it to race it. You have to do this cementing step. So we have to make sure that when we go to practice, we are cementing the technique so we can use it in a race. I know this video was a little bit longer. As always, please let me know if you guys have any questions. If you'd like to see different videos from when we actually were doing it a little